When I was 20 years old, I had a son and became a single mom. The father didn't want to be a part of my son's life. My parents offered to let me stay at their house, and my mom said she could help me with the baby. I thought it was a blessing since I was now responsible for my newborn. I was extremely grateful. I worked harder than ever before. I paid half of their rent and at first about $200 for bills. Then, after a few months of this arrangement, my dad lost his job. My mom didn't work. I had a good job that paid well, so I took over all the household expenses while my dad looked for another job. I'm talking about the full rent, groceries, utilities, TV, cell phones, gas, car insurance, and even spending money for them. After a year of him having no luck finding a job, my parents told me that my dad wasn't going to look for work anymore because he was old and tired. I was doing very well at my job, and they saw that I could support them, so we should just keep things the way they were. At the time, I was grateful for all their help with my son, so I agreed. This continued for 3 years until I met a guy who is now my husband, Landon. After we got married, my parents expected him to move in with us and for things to stay the same. But honestly, I didn't want that. My husband and I talked it over and agreed to get our own place, start our own family, our own lives, and give my son the chance to have a family. When we told my parents, they got extremely angry, saying they had no way to support themselves and that I had already agreed to provide for them. Basically, I was their retirement plan. I didn't see a problem with moving out because my parents aren't that old. They are 52. They agreed to let me move, but only if I left my son behind to continue supporting them. My husband Landon responded, "Not a chance. He's my stepson, and I see him as my own son. He is not staying here." My parents replied, "Fine, they can both leave, but she still has to pay our bills." I told them we could help them for a couple of months, but unfortunately, I couldn't keep paying for all their expenses. Am I the jerk because my moving out leaves my parents with zero income and they can no longer afford the lifestyle they got used to? I earn much more than my father ever did. And yes, I agreed to support them, but not forever. So now my parents aren't speaking to me. Comments: You are not the jerk. This is absolutely insane. My husband and I are the same age as your parents, and we both work full-time. We are not old and tired. We are adults who support ourselves. We don't ask our children for money. We are the ones who help our adult children become self-sufficient. It truly blows my mind that 50-year-old adults would take advantage of their children. Some people are just disgusting. I thought old and tired meant they were in their late 60s or early 70s, but since no disability was mentioned, I'm going to say they're lazy. They can get a job. You are not a retirement plan. You are not the jerk. Your parents took advantage of your situation. You have a family to take care of now. They are adults, so they need to take care of themselves. They chose not to work and to depend on you. They have been draining you for years. My God, you are being manipulated into paying for their lives. You are not their mother. They are your parents, and they don't treat you like parents should treat their daughter. It's easy to get a low-paying job, at least to show they're trying, but they stopped trying. They depended on you, and wanting to take your son is emotional blackmail. They want to take your son so you'll feel guilty that he's having a bad life without money, which would make you pay for their lives. My parents are a similar age and would be offended if I seriously said they were old and tired and needed to stop working. Not to mention they wanted to hold your son as ransom to keep you paying for them. What disgusting people. And the fact that you're willing to help them, even for a few more months, makes you a saint, because they don't deserve it. Story 2. My partner, Celeste, has had a conflict with my dad ever since we got married 4 years ago. Honestly, I don't understand why, and neither does my dad. My partner has never been able to explain it to me, but she has often felt that my dad was judging her or disrespecting her. When we got married, my partner identified as male, and recently, in the last 6 months, she came out as a woman. Our marriage was already going through a difficult period even before that, and it looks like we're going to get divorced now. It's not really because of her transition, but it doesn't help because I'm not a lesbian and I'm not attracted to women. My dad was also diagnosed with a terminal illness and has maybe about a year left. So I decided to travel to another state and spend 3 weeks with my parents to get a good amount of time with my dad while he can still enjoy it. Despite how complicated my relationship with Celeste is and her issues with my dad, Celeste said she wanted to come and support me, which I appreciated. However, I found messages Celeste had with one of her friends about the trip. Celeste plans to spend the entire time in female mode during this trip, something she doesn't even do yet when she's at home with me. She's in female mode about 25% of the time, and in male mode the rest of the time, including at work. Celeste told her friend that this was a great opportunity to finally address her issues with my dad and get an apology from him. Unfortunately, since she'll be in female mode, she's going to start crying. My dad will be forced to apologize to her and give in, because otherwise he would be harassing a crying woman. Obviously, I don't want this to happen during one of the last visits I'll have with my dad. I told Celeste this, and she became furious that I snooped and betrayed her. She also said it was a slap in the face that she was offering to come support me, despite how much my dad had disrespected her, and that I was being ungrateful. Then she said she had a right to go on the trip no matter what because my dad is her father-in-law and she has a relationship with him that is separate from me. She said I have no right to dictate what she can or can't bring up with my dad because they are adults. I said I understood, but I just didn't want her to cry. If she thinks they can work something out and talk about it, fine. But she shouldn't turn it into a scene where she's crying and making my dad uncomfortable. She got even angrier about that and has been sobbing all night, which worries me because I feel like it's a preview of what this visit would be like. Am I the jerk? Comments. You are not the jerk. Visiting your dying father is not the time for her to pull this manipulative teenage stunt. She should stay far away from this time you are trying to create memories you can carry with you. I don't care what happened before, or their relationship, or if you defended her enough in someone's eyes. This is not the time, and this is not about her, especially if you're very likely getting divorced anyway. She's not going on that trip to support you. She's going to get the last word against a dying man. She sounds like a complete narcissist. This is selfish and wrong. If you can't continue the relationship because of your orientation, I recommend ending it and spending all the time you can with your dad. And let's acknowledge something. Crying to get what you want is not female mode, and it's incredibly disrespectful to any woman, regardless of her assigned sex at birth, who chooses to communicate instead of manipulate. That phrase is so wrong. Does she really think that's what women are like? Manipulative weeping to get their way with their nonsense. The misogyny is regrettable, to put it mildly. You aren't telling your partner she can't show genuine emotion. You're telling her not to weaponize fake crying to emotionally manipulate a terminally ill person into apologizing for a poorly defined, possibly imagined, grievance. Story 3. I'm a 31-year-old woman who got married this fall, and I'm newly pregnant. My husband and I have been visiting family over the last few days and have been slowly telling them the good news. Of course, it's a little earlier than usual, but we are both very close with our families, and if God forbid something happens, we would want them to be our support system. The other night, I was sitting with some of my cousins, all women, including my cousin's teenage daughter, Evangeline. Evangeline is in her first serious relationship with a boy a grade above her. The conversation turned to my pregnancy, and one of my cousins asked if we had planned to get pregnant so quickly after getting married. I didn't take it as rude because, like I said, we're very close. So this kind of personal conversation is normal for us. I told them that I stopped taking birth control pills on our honeymoon and we weren't using protection, but our mindset was, if it happens, it happens. Then, I specifically addressed Evangeline and told her that the night the baby was conceived was the first time in our lives we didn't use protection and still decided to go through with it. I didn't go into explicit detail, I just pointed out that it only took one time of being careless to conceive. My reasoning was that there's a chance she might be sexually active soon, and I wanted her to be smart and protect herself. After that, the conversation moved on to something else, and I thought that was the end of it. My cousin's wife, Leora, who is 38 and not Evangeline's mom, sent me a message today and said that it had been bothering her that I was bragging about my fertility that night. She thought I should know better than to show off about such things in front of women when I don't know who is and who isn't struggling. I told her I wasn't bragging about anything. I was just trying to look out for my young cousin and answer the question I was asked. She disagreed, and the conversation ended with her saying she thinks I owe my group of cousins an apology. I haven't talked to anyone else about this because I don't want to drag anyone else into our drama. But for some context, Leora has 3 children of her own. I don't know if she had trouble conceiving them or not, but they are beautiful, healthy kids now. I know for a fact that at least one of my other cousins struggled with infertility, and I know this because she told us while she was going through it. She now has 2 healthy children, and she was there when this conversation happened. I feel like if I apologize to Leora, I'm admitting that I was bragging about my fertility when I wasn't. So, am I the jerk? I'm trying to be self-aware, but I really don't feel like I was in the wrong here. Is there a perspective I'm missing? Comments. You are not the jerk. The bragging about your fertility thing makes me laugh. Seriously, the things self-centered people can come up with to be offended by these days. You didn't know about any fertility issues and used it as a teaching moment for a girl who probably needs to hear that. They shouldn't have asked about your fertility if they didn't want to hear about it. You're not the jerk here. There's nothing to apologize for. And congratulations on the baby. You are the jerk. In my opinion, it was inappropriate for you to mention that to a teenager. Your intentions were good, but that is definitely a conversation she should have with her parents. I just wouldn't talk about intimacy in front of them, even if they are of age. Leave it to the parents unless you have explicit permission to have that kind of talk with someone else's daughter. Story 4. To start, I adore my wife. She's my support system and has been a constant source of light for me this year. I lost my job at the beginning of the year, and when things got tough, she stepped up. She got a part-time job to help us stay afloat and didn't say a single negative thing about any of it. I finally got back on my feet and wanted to do something nice for my wife once things settled down. She's very feminine and loves dressing up, going out, and so on. We really cut back on spending this year, so I wanted to splurge on something special for her once our finances felt stable. I bought her a diamond necklace. Nothing too extravagant. We just got out of financial trouble, so I'm not going to turn around and spend money I don't have. It's a single solitaire-style diamond, which in my opinion was very classy and elegant, and something she could wear daily. My wife wore the necklace to a family dinner. Her sister-in-law, Bryn, who is her brother's wife, noticed the necklace and complimented it. My wife, Happy, told her it was a surprise, and Bryn agreed it was a super sweet gesture. She congratulated me on my choice, and overall, the family seemed to think it was a nice gift, especially knowing we had gone through hard times. A few days after the dinner, I received a message from my brother-in-law, Warren, calling me a jerk for using the dinner to show off and make it all about me. He said I shouldn't have let my wife wear such flashy jewelry to the dinner and outshine everyone else, and that it was super selfish and arrogant of us. I was stunned, honestly, because the conversation about the necklace only lasted a few minutes, maybe 5 to 10, and the rest of the family only said good things. They seemed genuinely happy for my wife and me. I'm starting to feel like a jerk because it's true that the family isn't doing great financially, and something like my wife's necklace could be seen as very luxurious. My brother-in-law says that now I'm putting pressure on him to buy his wife something extravagant for Christmas. On the other hand, I don't feel it's my responsibility to worry about how my brother-in-law feels about a gift I bought for my wife, and if he feels pressure, that's not my fault. I don't know. Was I the jerk for talking about the gift during dinner? Update. Am I the jerk for allowing my wife to wear expensive jewelry to dinner and embarrassing my brother-in-law? Unfortunately, the outcome isn't the best. First, I want to clarify that the brother-in-law, Warren, is actually my wife's brother. Second, the comment about allowing my wife to choose her clothes was from him. I have no interest or power in dictating what my wife chooses to wear, regardless of the occasion. Third, while I won't disclose the cost of the necklace, I can assure you it was in a reasonable price range. Definitely not something that would turn heads if she wore it to run errands, but it was still special enough for my wife and me. At first, I wanted to keep the messages to myself so the feeling behind the necklace wouldn't be ruined, but we're not the type of couple to keep secrets. When she read the message, she was furious. I had never seen her so upset, especially with family. She immediately called her brother and chewed him out for his insensitivity. We were on the call together, but I didn't say anything as they started to argue because I thought they should work it out as siblings. They fought for a while, and her brother said he was worried she was going down a slippery slope of becoming a superficial witch and that we shouldn't impose our financial success on other people. That comment honestly shook both of us because even though they weren't close as kids, he'd never spoken to her like that before. At that point, my wife told her brother that if he wasn't going to be happy for her, if he wasn't going to be glad she got a thoughtful gift from her husband after a horrible year, then she had nothing more to say to him. A few hours later, my wife did get a message from her sister-in-law, Bryn. She had also heard the conversation and was mortified. She assured us that she was happy for our success after we worked so hard and that she would try to talk some sense into her husband. Anyway, my wife and I decided to spend Christmas without her brother and his wife. We'll do it separately on Christmas Eve with her parents. At this point, there's too much tension, and I didn't want to risk her brother ruining Christmas because it wouldn't surprise me if he considered the gifts we give his family too luxurious and threw a tantrum in response. Her parents are staying out of it for now, but are fine with seeing us separately, and I respect their decision. And maybe this makes me the jerk, but I'm getting my wife a nice matching bracelet for Christmas. I didn't include this before because Warren didn't admit to anything specific, but my wife suspects her brother's behavior stems from a competitive nature. She said he always loved to win, even as a kid. During my rough patch, he started coming around to help, but now I'm beginning to feel that it just gave him a twisted satisfaction to see me fail. Comments. Thanks for the update. Holy cow. You buy a nice gift and suddenly she's a superficial witch. I guess that makes me one too because I'm planning on buying myself a nice bag for my birthday tomorrow. Your brother-in-law doesn't care enough to buy nice things for his wife. And the author's wonderful gift forced the brother-in-law to realize he's never done anything nice for his wife. Wow. So, this guy is that insecure, huh? Why is it always someone else's problem when someone is insecure like that? Your sister-in-law sounds amazing. Hopefully she manages to talk some sense into your brother-in-law. That guy really showed his true colors. There are so many men with fragile egos who measure their worth only by money while doing absolutely nothing that deserves real praise. It must be a shock for you and your wife to discover how insecure and bitter your brother-in-law is. He scolds you for being able to give your wife such a thoughtful gift and then disguises his horrible messages as concern about materialism and showing off. The brother-in-law has issues, and you don't need that negativity bomb spoiling your Christmas celebrations. It might even bring bad vibes for the new year, too. Enjoy the holidays, and we're sure your wife will absolutely love the bracelet.